Welcome, Season 2, Fractional CMOs and the 90-Day Win. I'm Dean Wei. This season, we're going to talk through scenarios that companies and these CMOs experience to share lessons learned and tips on how to get the most out of a fractional CMO that you've hired. Hey, Tim.
Hey, Dean, how are you? It's great to be here. Thanks.
Hi. Thank you for being here. So you just started a hypothetical one-year engagement. That's how we normally start this podcast, right? What's the first problem most of your clients need to start fixing? And also tell the audience a little bit about you.
Tim Hillison, Fractional CMO. I serve startups and scale-ups. For the past 25 years, I've served large global brands, and in my fractional CMO practice, I serve B2B startups and scale-ups. A lot of times, the first problem that I'm working with my clients in solving is about growth.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is, there's a stat GTM Partners put out last year that said that about 81% of companies experienced a decline in sales velocity last year. And so, I believe that marketing is a true revenue partner and helps build the pipeline, right? And so, what I'm looking for is marketing a support function or a true revenue partner at the company?
Right.
How are they defining their TAM, their total addressable market? Are they using total relevant market? Did they define their ICP correctly? And how is their messaging really resonating with their target audience? Right. And
Right.
so when I'm looking at that, I'm looking at how is that translating across the different channels that they're currently using, and what is that engagement, and how is that translating into the pipeline that they're pumping out to sales?
Okay. And thanks for I don't like we try to keep it jargon free
Okay.
for the non-marketing folks. So thanks very much for explaining TAM. That was excellent. I really appreciate it. I was gonna have to do it if you didn't, so now I don't have to do it. So thanks. So Prakash, how about you? What's sort of the first problem that most of your clients need to fix that you find when you get started, and also like let the audience know a little bit about yourself.
Dean, thanks for having me. I'm Prakash Nagpal. I'm a fractional CMO. I was CMO at several early stage companies and have helped them scale to over $100+ million. Starting about a year ago, I moved into fractional work, and it's been very interesting. My clients have ranged from SaaS companies, distribution companies, AI and machine learning companies, and traditional shipping companies, like actually shipping physical
Nice.
goods. And there's a lot happening in this space right now, a lot of cool problems to solve across, as I stated, a variety of industries, including what are seen as traditional non-tech industries. So with that backdrop, I'll talk about so there's two-part answer to your question, right?
Yeah.
One is, what do I see and what do I look for? So when I walk into these engagements, first, I see a need to find alignment and drive alignment. Because when you're hired into these roles, different people have different expectations of the CMO.
Right.
And you're trying to understand, what is it that the company really needs? What were you hired to do? What are the goals? Who is aligned with the goals? And where do you need to build consensus? I see different points of view on what needs to be accomplished. And my goal is identifying what are the objectives that they have stated, right? And what I look for is the the difference between what was stated in the SOW and what is really said to me, right? It's very unlikely that you walk in day one and you've met almost everybody on the team, especially when you're getting hired in these roles. You met a very small slice. So I'm looking for who is aligned with what I was told needs to be done, who is not aligned, and how do I go about building the alignment to get to the goals that Tim talked about. What are your growth projections? What is your go-to-market plan? Do you actually need help in messaging and identifying the priorities so that then you can set yourself up to deliver on what they really want.
I
Okay.
agree with that 100%.
So Prakash, that kind of rolls into my next question. So besides like looping you in, like sharing information with you, which is kind of table stakes for any fractional CMO to be successful in their engagement. Besides sharing information, what should a CEO do, or what can a CEO do to get maximum value from their fractional CMO for that 1 year?
So actually, that's kind of a tricky question,
Yeah.
right? Because on the one hand, they're bringing in a fractional CMO to go, I've offloaded my problems now, it's all yours.
Yeah.
Right. On the one hand, you don't want to be this burden on the organization of, well, do this for me, do that for me. But on the other hand, like you stated, Dean, you want to be integrated into the information flow,
Yeah.
right? So there's some organizational overhead you need to place so that you get included in part of the information flow. So I break this down into three categories of what CEOs should think about, right? Um, One is organizational, second is directive, and third is informational. So, from an organizational perspective, first, they need to come to terms with, what did I hire you for? Did I hire you for a project? Did I hire you as an executive to help me fill a need at the company for the role, or am I filling a role, or am I getting you for a project? And the answer to that will drive different treatment of the individual, right? Should I
Yeah.
introduce them to everybody? Should they be integral part of the sales team? Should they be part of the marketing team? Should they be managing all the marketing activities? The directive piece covers, what are your expectations on how much do you want to dictate what the marketing person should do, versus how much do you want them to guide you on what marketing needs to be, right? And the answer is different for different organizations at different stages.
Sure. Yeah.
Uh, and are you looking for them to guide you on the expectations of the CMO? Right. The third bucket is a different way of thinking about communication. Right. What information do you need to share for the person to be successful? If you think of them organizationally as a fractional working on a project, and ask the person to develop a campaign, but do not want them to, quote unquote, bother your product team or the sales
Right.
team, they're not going to be successful, right? You're not setting yourself up for success. You're going to be wasting your money, and the person is definitely not being set up to succeed. So you've got to determine as a CEO, what are you looking for? What are you hiring the person to fill? And I would recommend, again, going back to the three buckets, right? Organizational, directive, and informational. How do you want this person to fit into the organization? And I can see some mental alarm bells of listeners, right? If you're bringing in a CMO to be strategic, the answer should be all the above. While it might seem obvious, just know, without passing judgment on CEOs, they have different needs and different points of view on the organization and the stage of the company, right? So I think my place is not to judge, but to help align and make sure that they're successful.
Hey Tim, I'm going to ask you the same question, but I'm going to reverse it, which we've done on a few episodes with that. Which is this: what have you seen or experienced, or hypothetically, what could happen where how does a CEO hire a fractional CMO and then waste that money?
There's several ways, right? And I would say this, I really do agree with what Prakash said, and coming from a management consulting background as well,
Right.
where I've worked with a lot of CEOs. I think that one of the things that's key for fractional CMOs is to be proactive about this, because I believe in servant leadership, and so we're there to serve and also push back. And sometimes CEOs do not have the experience, specifically when they're younger, to understand how to best leverage
Yeah.
these skills. And for instance, in my case, my clients, I've been hired multiple times by my clients, right? And so I would say several things, right? Be proactive. For example, in regards to integrating with the team and forming part of that revenue team, on the first day, I write an introduction letter to the CEO that he can pop out to all of the team so that they know who I am, what my role is, and it's an introduction, right? So that right there, Dean, answers some of your questions. It already gets it out there. It
Right.
already helps him prevent to be a failure, right? Second is, I'm very proactive in establishing a cadence with the CEO about how I expect him to be involved in the marketing. It's not just a one and done where I'm hired and I'm off, right?
Right.
And I'm engaging with him. And also, I would say that it's about building trust with the CEO. I don't know, it's very different being on the inside than being on the outside of the organization when you're negotiating what this engagement is going to be. And so, once you're on the inside of it and you see how this alignment works, you need to come in and bring your process skills and your expertise to really say, this is how change needs to work in order for you to grow. And this is what I bring to you. And these are the initiatives, whether that's, change in the positioning, whether that's change in empowering your team, or whether that's change in budget. And I think that that type of education to the CEO can help prevent him from failing and make his or her, excuse me,
Right.
investment work better, right? But I think it's really up to the fractional CMO to make sure that it's not a failure, that it's actually a great investment for this company.
All right. So speaking of like investments already made, all right, I want you to help out fractional CMOs who are watching this. They're not the biggest part of our audience, but there's definitely some, right? So
Sure.
here's the question: what lessons would you pass along to fractional CMOs who are right now or this week walking into a company where there are already people working in marketing? Like maybe not, there's no CMO, obviously, but there's already a team in place. Like, what do you advise them?
Well, most of my engagements, there's already a team in place,
Okay,
right?
good.
And people can be nervous. Hey, there's someone new coming on, right?
Right.
You know, getting to know the team, understanding what the capabilities are is super important. One of the first things I do is say to the team is ask them to, um, you know, self-evaluate themselves. I want to know where they think that they are the strongest and what their skills are. And then I can observe them and I can go deep into the data and understand what the actual performance is of the company and then align that with the goals, right? Within the first 90 days, one of the things I'm usually doing is helping to build the marketing strategy and funding it,
Right.
right? And then during that time, I am looking, are the people that are currently working within these roles actually in the right roles? Right? And so, what's important here is first, are they in the right roles? What gaps do we have? Right? And in order to achieve those goals, what other resources are needed? Right? And so that's part of the plan that I'm making. Um, Again, one of the things that happens in my engagements is to build pipeline and to be part of that revenue team. And so I'm really looking at, you know, not only what people are there, but what tools are there and what is the overall perception of marketing and how well it is aligned with the other functions and how it's integrated into the overall company. Does that
So
answer your
Prakash,
question, Dean?
yeah. So Prakash, someone comes to you and say, "Hey, like I'm starting one of my first ever FCMO gigs. Uh, this one has a team. There's like a Facebook person, there's an email person, and there's like someone who does something at the conferences. I don't even know what they do, Prakash. But and so like, but I'm gonna like walk into this, and I'm not gonna be there full time. I'm only gonna be there like a day a week usually. So like, how do I handle this team? What do I do? Do I have to
You-
care about it?
First of all, you're asking for a friend. This has never happened to any of us, right?
No, no.
Yeah. uh, so, my approach there is first, how do I disarm the people that I'm going to be working with, especially if they already have a marketing team? How do I show them that I'm here to help them, not to take anybody's job?
Sure.
Um, and that's tricky, right? There's no one size fits all. You have to go
Mhm.
evaluate the personalities. Um, and as long as your expectations with the CEO are very clear, I would not hesitate on going back to the CEO and going, hey, look, I've talked to your team. Here's my brutal assessment of your team. Right. It doesn't mean you have to be a jerk about it. You can do this
Sure.
politely, right? Get to know the team. Don't make off the cuff judgments about the team. Understand them. But after you've done that, I would say there's, again, two parts to this. One is tactical, and the second one is strategic. Look for an early win. To me, I look at this as, when you send out an email in marketing, we do that, right? The
Right.
subject line is asking them for 30 seconds to read the body of the email. The first sentence is asking them for another 30 seconds to read the rest of the email. I look at this, uh, it's very similar to that. What can I do initially to build the credibility so that I can then do the strategic stuff? It's very unlikely you're going to walk in and hit the ball out of the park in the first week and go, here's a strategic insight nobody ever thought about. And if that happens, buy a lottery ticket. Please go buy a lottery ticket and share it with me, right? Share your winnings with me, because that's very unusual. Find something low hanging and fix it. I'll give you an example. One of my clients, you know, marketing automation, tech stack, they've done everything. There was a form that they needed, was very annoying to everybody. And I don't know if it was they didn't know how to fix it or didn't have the time to fix it. We fixed the form. And they were like, oh my goodness, this is so much more efficient. It's a very simple victory. And that gave me the credibility to then do the strategic part, which was planning.
Right.
Before you go and start executing, show them a roadmap of where you will go X days from now, right? Whether it's 60 days, 90 days, 6 months, write it down on paper and show it to them and go, this is what I'm thinking. Please give me your feedback. Do you think I'm on the right track? Start getting buy in from the team on what you think you need to do, and get agreement that this is exactly where you're uh, going to move forward, right? It goes back to this. The SOW is great, but the SOW translating into the actual work that you're going to do is sometimes different. So write that down, get agreement, drive alignment. And I think that
And
also
empower.
serves, yeah, it serves as your conscience too. It's like, oh, I laid out this plan because, yeah, again, I'm speaking for a friend. I never do this, but you tend to sometimes go off on tangents. Oh, this is exciting. Let me go chase that. It's like, no, no, no. In the first 90 days, that was
Well,
not the charter. Let's go do the,
let's let's
yeah.
imagine from the other point of view then, okay? Let's imagine that you're one of the full-time employees, like junior people working on that marketing team, okay? The company's just hired a fractional CMO. Like, what, if any, changes, Prakash, and then we'll go to Tim. I want Tim's input on this. What changes might I expect as the person who does the Facebook ads or the person who runs marketing email when a fractional CMO has been hired in?
One of the biggest changes you're likely to experience is the questioning of everything that you do to
Okay.
understand better the results and the objectives that you're trying to meet. That's probably the first thing. The second is probably going to be uh, a shift of focus on what to prioritize and what comes before, what comes after. Right? There's a third likely outcome, and it really depends on the situation, right? Third likely outcome might be, hey, a defocus on what you're working on, or a doubling down of what you're working on. And I think it's, especially if you're junior, it's hard to do, right? Because I've been in that situation. You got to start coming to terms with this new person, as long as you can trust their intentions, going,
Right.
they're here to help me, right? Because I was not getting this guidance, and maybe it is a good thing that I'm getting this prioritization, because I might have to, quote unquote, swallow a bitter pill in the short term, but actually that might help my longevity with this company and might help the company and make my stock worth something.
And Tim, I'm, a junior or mid-level marketing person on a marketing team. A fractional CMO has just been hired. Should I freak out?
No, I think that, I mean, again, sort of the reverse to the last
Yeah.
question that you asked. One of the things that's going to happen is that this junior employee is going to start getting the big picture, right? And that big picture is going to be really useful in regards to his or her work, right? Because all of a sudden, for example, in the context of Facebook ads or any type of paid advertising, this person's going to start getting the context of connecting this activity to the business. That's always helpful, right? Specific in moving pipeline. The other thing is that the person is going to be able to have more of a collaborative relationship. Right. I'm sure that this person has questions, wants to develop, and is going to be able to really have a sounding board saying, well, hey, should we do this? Should we do that? Right. And that's empowering to the individual. Also, I think that one of the things that I know that I bring is that, what are the actual goals of this person? They may be in this specific role, but they may want to move into something else. And being able, when you're at a smaller company or even at a scale up, learning different roles is really important to be promoted and to be able to take on more responsibility. And so having goals, whether they're quarterly or annually, is going to be able to really help develop that person and that person's skills, right? And so I think that you can go different ways. It's obviously scary when someone comes in, but it's about building that relationship, building that dialogue with that person, and really understanding and getting to know that person on a human level, but also helping to teach that person and direct that person and be collaborative in developing that person so that the results are even better for the company and that marketing is elevated throughout the organization.
Okay. Last question, I think, before we wrap up. Different topic altogether. The best fractional engagements are a marathon or a sprint. Like they have a defined end date and you're driving towards that end date and an exit. Or the best fractional engagements are the ones that are a marathon, certain number of hours per week or certain number of weeks per month. And it goes on, possibly for years. Sprint or marathon? What's best?
I've had both. So it really depends on the company and the size and the maturity of the company, right? Certainly in this atmosphere where IPOs have gone down and exit strategies are all over the place,
Mm-hmm.
now we're starting to see a window that's different. But I've been fractional CMO where all of a sudden, the goal was to be acquired, right? And that acquisition window has moved.
So, do
Uh,
you have a preference?
I don't really. I think it depends more on the company and who you're working with and the type of work that's involved in there.
Right.
Like Josh, I tend to go a little bit more towards technical companies, and sometimes it's the market window and building awareness of those, but it's really about the work in the team and the impact that you're having, right? That's personally for me.
How about you, Prakash? By the way, when I asked him that question, just the tone that I asked it in reminded me of when there used to be the Colbert Show, before.
Yeah.
And he used to ask this because he was sort of pretending to be like a conservative character. He would ask guests, George W. Bush, great president or greatest president? Right? You're kind of stuck, right? So, Prakash, like your preference, what's better, a sprint or a marathon for a fractional engagement?
I've everything that Tim said, right? It depends on the stage. I don't obviously as a fractional, I would take both opportunities depending on the goal and the size of the company and so on,
Sure.
right? I think a marathon. if it's 100 meter, if the sprint is a 100 meter dash and I want 100 leads in 100 days, that's a little tougher to execute upon, right? It's if you walk into a situation where they go, look, I need to build out a pipeline. Here's my goal. What do you think it'll take? I think those are better suited for fractionals or for me personally, because then you have a thoughtful execution methodology
Mhm.
that you can put in place. The shotgun, I have to get 50 leads and I don't care how you do it, just go do it. Right? Those tend to be sprints, and the likelihood of success goes down because you're operating under a shotgun, right? So for me, that my preference is more thoughtful, whether you characterize that as a sprint. If it's 6 months and you have the ability to execute, or 3 months and you have the ability to execute, but there's not this preset expectation of 100 leads in 100 days, uh, that's what I prefer. Maybe I twisted your question, Dean,
No,
uh,
that's good.
but how I define if I was to go the absolute end of the spectrum and go, a sprint is an absolute mad dash towards an end goal and without any care, those are tough to win, right? For
Mhm.
all sides. But if the sprint is, look, I it's a 200-meter race and I need to prepare and tell me how I need to win the race. Okay, that's a win-win for all sides.
Yeah. Okay, so Prakash, by the way, thanks both you guys. This has been fantastic. Your LinkedIn is on screen. So, who should contact you, and how should they contact you?
How reach out to me on LinkedIn,
Okay.
reach out to me, yeah, on LinkedIn, and yeah, if there's a way to provide my email, I'd be glad to do that. Uh, but who should contact me? Early
Hmm.
stage companies that are looking to grow. I would not, again, personally, if you're pre MVP, I would not recommend getting in a
Any fractional
fractional
CMO,
CMO.
really.
Any
Yeah.
really, yeah. Do not. Please conserve your money. Put it towards engineering. If you're looking to scale, you're looking to grow,
Right.
you're looking to understand. It's a one part is product market fit. I think the second part is what I call message market fit. If you're in the message market fit stage, contact me. If you're looking to scale, contact me.
And Tim, who should reach out to you, and how should they connect with you?
Startups and scale ups, CEOs, CROs, CFOs, even CMOs of, say, D to E, A to C of the other. Tim at entrypoint1.com or through my LinkedIn. And I look forward to it. Thanks for
Uh,
having us, Dean.
Thank you. I'm just
Thank
gonna
you, Dean.
put that here because it's so. I mentioned it on the last episode, depending on what order they air it. I said one person of the. You guys are like guess 52 and 53, I think, and one only one person said people should call me. Here's my phone number.
Wow.
I was stunned. I was stunned. I was like, "Wow, you're gonna give out your phone number like on the internet?" He said, "Yeah, whatever. Let's do it."
On YouTube, where you post this too.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I mean, it was kind of like cool. Like, he's definitely like, how many YouTube videos have you ever watched where someone gave their phone number? He's gonna stand out, I think. I hope he has an answering service. All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Prakash. Thanks for watching. And we'll see everyone next time. Bye.